To your breakfast program, Good Morning Sierra Leone. Usually live here from broadcasting out of England on your channel of choice, SLBC channel 31. Of course, this program, as you know, it always starts with analysis and divergence of views on news and controversial happenings in the country. I'm presented Dennis Peter. We begin with a quote of the day, which comes from American writer Mark Twain, and it says, "Patriotism is supporting your country at all times and your government when it deserves it." As always, a food for thought to you esteemed viewers. Coming up in the menu this morning, still on the discontinuance of former President Anis Baikoma's case, we have legal experts in the studio this morning to talk us through the legal implications. The leader of the Gen Z movement, Sierra Leone, speaks on their vision to promote leadership, innovation, collaboration, and active civic participation. On the solemn one, a 28-year-old Aja Asuma Toronka, who is a final year student pursuing a degree in peace and development at Jala University, is appealing for help to save her life. These issues and more are going to be touched with the next 55 minutes of the program. It's Good Morning Sierra Leone. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Sierra Leone live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation Television on Channel 31. It's now time for us to usher in our guests and begin the conversation here this morning. As not following in the news, the Office of the Attorney General Minister of Justice, AFACC, has officially discontinued criminal proceedings against former President Anis Baikoma. In a public notice issued on Tuesday, the office said the proceedings are no longer before the courts in Sierra Leone. Former President Anis Baikoma was charged with treason and misprision of treason following investigations into an alleged failed attempted coup. He was granted bail on medical conditions, allowing him to travel overseas for specialized treatment, while the case remained pending before the courts, according to the notice. As a legal consequence of the discontinuance, Koma's bail has come to an end with immediate effect, the office added. The office also confirmed that the former president is free to return to Sierra Leone after completing his medical treatment, or at any time he so chooses. From legal experts, we find out what this means legally for the former president and this present government. Well, to further this discussion this morning, we have an esteemed panel. In the studio, we've been joined by senior lawyer Charlie Israel Williams, Esquire. Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning, and thank you.
And then we also have Victor Nasnakroma, who's also joining us in the program. Good morning, and welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
For obvious reasons, I begin with you, Council. Of course, in no place than the House of Representatives, Parliament yesterday tabled a motion giving it was their returning thanks to President Bio for displaying what they refer to as statesmanship insofar as discontinuing the case surrounding the former president. And then, of course, it's no longer becoming a secret. Depending on who you talk to, every corner of the society, there is a version to this explanation. Take us to what are the legal ramifications.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to take away the political aspect out of my presentation. I'm going to talk about the legal aspect of my presentation. I know politicians, they always have their own way as to how they interpret things, and they want it to appear to make political sense. But legally speaking, the new Criminal Procedure Act, that is 2024, at section 45, subsection 1, makes provision that the prosecution through the Attorney General, it could be through the DPP, could inform the court that they are no longer interested in pursuing a case against a defendant. And if that is so, the provision does not make any, the section does not make any provision for the reason to be stated.
Okay.
All the DPP or the Attorney General could do is to tell the court that we are no longer interested. And the legal term is nolli prosequi. So you null it normally, or short to say, oh, you null this case. Okay, so basically when you inform the court as to your intention, the court will now discharge. So take note of the word discharge. The court will discharge the defendant. But however, if you look at that section 45, subsection 1, it says that discharge is not a bar, meaning it does not preclude the prosecution from coming back with the same case on the same fact against the same person. Because in legal studies, the reasons why the prosecution could choose to do so is not to waste the court's time or waste the time of the defendant. Assuming you don't have witnesses or the witnesses are not cooperating. Secondly, it's possible that the evidence is insufficient at the time. It's also possible that the case, if you look at the case generally, the case is weak. So you don't want to take that trial to the end, and at the end of the day...
And at this point, sorry to interrupt you, please forgive me. If you say the case is weak, a case where we've seen proliferation of evidences pointing towards former president, we also saw some of those who have been posted on social media, and we saw conversations, so video evidences, all suggesting that he must have a hand in it.
Okay, so I was not basically referring to the former president's case per se. I was giving a general overview of that situation of saying we have no intention to proceed. I was giving reasons why it happens. In this particular case, honestly, I cannot say why the prosecution chose to inform the court as to whether, as to why they are not intending to proceed. I was just giving reasons. And as I said, section 45 does not say the Attorney General should state a reason why. We're just looking at what usually happens in legal studies. Now, with regards to what you just said about you've seen evidence regarding that case against the former president, maybe you find to evidence with regards to the treason trials and court martial, but with regards to the former president, we did not get to that point where evidence will be led. We did not. In fact, if you listen to the defense counsel for the former president, he had said that even during interviews at the police station, they could not put any substantial allegation to the president. The questions they were asking, we were not there. I mean, I'm just re-echoing what he said. The questions they were asking the former president were, do you know this person? Do you know that person? What's your relationship with this person? But they did not, for example, put to him, sir, did you make any communication with this person on this date? Did you attend any meeting on this date at this place? I mean, those are some of the issues you will find in a treason allegation. The aspect of meetings, support, financial, all of those things, and misprision of treason. So we did not get to that point. We don't have the opportunity. We did not have the opportunity to have seen, pieces of evidence. However, that is why this aspect of the law says subsequently the prosecution can still come with you to say, okay, now we have witnesses, now we have new evidence coming up, so you can answer to this. So that is why it's not a bar. It does not stop the prosecution to call you later to say, okay, now we are ready.
Okay. So of course, I believe for that, let me also bring in Little Lancelot's cry in this conversation. So of course, you are from council making a supposition, even as we now have no prosecute. But if evidence is developed in at a later date, this might also warrant for the case to be called in the court of law. I mean, legally, do you think that this case here has substances that warrants for a recall of this matter?
So I think these debates actually, I know these are legal debates, basically because the law is the law and it's clear that when this happens, definitely there's always the opportunity for the prosecution to bring up, such matter. But of course, in this situation we're talking about here, honestly, my opinion, I think for me, that is not the intention, because the prosecution has made it very clear. I'm sure the president himself must have been consulted now to a very great extent for him to allow this kind of things to happen, because of course the Attorney General is representing the government, the president, so there's no way the Attorney General will go and make such pronouncements, without the president consent. So which means, my opinion, I think, the government, and you have heard from the party, the party of the government, right? They also have categorically made it clear that everybody's yearning for peace. This is a situation where everybody think we now need reconciliation in the country, and so all that has happened over the past, we all saw the impact, the implication that it has created so far to the nation, in terms of the economy, in terms of, looking at the way situations are going on. And also, in fact, you look at even investors, the confidence to investors, pushing this nation in terms of their development strides. I think, and the president being the chairman of ECOWAS, because I've also had he's a pressure from the ECOWAS, and he is the ECOWAS chairman. I don't think anybody will push him, force him to do what he has done. For me, the whole spirit about this whole thing, I think it's about reconciliation. I think it's about peace. I think it's about moving the country forward. Don't forget that just in the moment of years to come, we'll be jumping into another election and all of these things. And the stake that the former president had, in terms of his political, and all of these things. So I think for me, that is the spirit. My only take here is I just hope that that spirit, that intention, that goodwill could be very, they will be very honest about it, they will be very sincere about it, and because again, like I said, the law can be there, but of course we also look at the bigger picture for Sierra Leoneans, right? Everybody is yearning for all of these things. We see how everything is not working properly the way as it is to be in terms of governance, in terms of economy, in terms of development, and all the rest. We saw a report from the IMF, stated clearly how much the external debts, and domestic debt has risen, and all these things. All these are mitigating factors to, kind of derail the development of the country. So if the country still remains to be fragile, we are in a very tense political situation. I mean, you will not have investors to be in this country, and without them, the country will be heading for doom. And that kind of thing. So I think all of these parameters, these are all things that they have consulted themselves and say, what, let's start to demonstrate that we are moving on peace. And one of the biggest aspects of it has to do with the former president, allowing the former president to come. Let's come and push. This nation cannot develop without the other parties. SLPP cannot develop this nation. APC cannot develop this nation. We all need, everybody need, our wheels, shoulders on the wheel to make sure everything happens. So for me, I think these are all the things that they have thought about. If you talk about the legal implication, oh yes, indeed, the law has been made it clear. The only prosecutor does not preclude a matter to be brought again on the same facts, but in the interest of peace, development, right? Can we share that way? Can we lead that? And it's intentional, right? To say we think we don't have any intention for that, to make sure that should that be? Again, for me, again, I think this also has sense. I'm glad that these debates are coming, in the sense that it will also send a signal and a message to even the coming president, the former president, to say, you know what, I will go there, but you know what, I will stay peaceful. I will remain quiet. I will just continue to do this. As a statesman, right, let me do whatever I think I could to support the development of the nation, right? I don't think he will be in the position to allow any other person to just come and, you know, do things or mess up whatever he thinks he himself wants to contribute to that peace and development. Otherwise, there was no need for him to even request that I will come, even though he did not request maybe per se, but maybe to express willingness. You know, over time we have had over time that the president is willing to come back. You know, home is always home, right? And that kind of thing. But if there are kind of,
but he was always welcome to come back. He was on medical.
Absolutely, that's what we got, right? But because we all know there are these charges against him.
Are you smelling foul?
No, I don't think that's the case. I really don't think that's the case. I think this is a genuine peace that everybody's looking for, and Sierra Leoneans are really yearning for peace because this country wants to move forward.
Now, Council, of course, you asked for Peter Lassen Esquire. Now, looking at the bigger picture, like you said, but a non-prosecuted does not preclude for the occurrence of a particular matter to be brought before the court of law. Maybe on that note, I'm just thinking out loud. The chairman for the Western Area State Council authored a piece stating that this particular matter should have been one that should have been settled in court, not maybe the route that the Attorney General and Minister of Justice office took. Maybe also going to give another perspective, because we also saw that members of Parliament are now taking a motion for the protection of former Vice President and former President, and then this has also clouded public discourse. I mean, from different quarters, people are really asking for accountability and transparency in this particular case, and of course the rule of law to take precedence.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this question in twofold.
Okay.
One as a lawyer, and the other as a civil activist. As a lawyer, the law has made provision for a null procedure, and that is what the Attorney General has used. It's lawful, it's legal, it's correct. The fact that the law says this is not a bar, you can come back, does not mean in any way to say that it's going to be used as a trap. It's not that the public, people would anticipate or suspect, or that is normal. That is normal. People would always have, their suspicions and things. However, it also does not say it's going to be like what we say in Creole, keep tick the end, so that way they back race. So when the former president comes, and then this would be like, well, we're looking at you, we're watching. If you shake, we go up. Okay. The defense does not need to rely on the discharge. What they should rely on is the strength of their defense. So even if you come with the case again, they would still have their defense to say, my client is not culpable, he didn't do it, and you don't have evidence. Okay, so, but on the side of civil society, I believe that actions of peace, or actions which are selling the olive branch, we should not downplay them inside here. If the government is genuine, if they want peace, they want this country to move on, then it's a process. This could well be the start. Let's see how they pursue it, to what extent, because we are fed up.
All right, of course, Lawyer Kuruma, as we conclude on this particular conversation, now let's just have your final advice on this in the interest of peace and national cohesion. Like you heard from Council, the nation itself is fed up for the political ethics. This seems to be one way for turning out political ethics in the country. How far do you think this will take us as a nation?
So, for me, you know, honestly, in fact, let's look at the current.
And of course, you have the civil society background.
Oh yeah, sure, definitely. We have been following, and we know all what it takes. Honestly, we all know the situation how the country is now at the moment. And one of the things I want to even applaud the president is that this summit that he's having, sends a big signal, because one thing we should always remember, in a state where there is no assurance for security, there's no peace and all cohesion and the likes of it, definitely there is no a situation where these investors and donors' confidence will be lost and all these things. So for me, this summit also sends an opportunity, and that's why we really want to commend the president. Let's forget about the expenditure and all the likes of it, but it's one way. So adding up to the former president issue now, Sierra Leoneans are really now, like I said, yearning for this type of peace, so that confidence will be built for investors, confidence will be for partners to see how the country can go forward again, you know. So I think these are all part of the good pathways that the government is thinking, and I think these discussions, they are good. But of course, let's look at the bigger picture, let's look at what the president think. This is good, and I think, let's don't forget, the current president will one day be called a former president, and he will also want to be somewhere where he will say, oh, these are part of my legacy. Exactly, I want to be protected likewise. So really, I don't think he will listen to any other advice that would be contrary to what already has happened.
Thank you very much. This is lawyer Victor Lansana, and of course earlier on you had from senior counsel lawyer Israel Charlie Williams, and of course that was an aspect panel we had here this morning to talk about around the legal ramifications surrounding the discontinuance of the state's prosecution of the former president, Hannes Baikoma, on teasing and misprision of teasing. We continue the program now, proceed to our health tips of today, and of course it's a topic. We have gentlemen in the studio who must have very much interest in it. It's on what causes erectile dysfunction. A urologist answers the questions that many men will be too afraid to pose to their doctors. Let's take a look.
One of the most common misconceptions is that ED, or erectile dysfunction, is due to a low testosterone level in most cases. This is actually a pretty rare cause of ED. It's usually due to things like cardiovascular disease, hardening and narrowing of the arteries that bring blood to the penis, or things like performance anxiety. If you're experiencing new erectile dysfunction, it's really important for us to get to the bottom of what might be causing it, as sometimes it might be a consequence of major health issues that could be brewing and could lead to a heart attack in 5 years or so. So if you're experiencing new or worsened erectile dysfunction, it's really important to start that conversation with your primary care doctor or a urologist so that we can order any necessary testing that might need to be performed to better understand what the cause is.
Welcome back, the program you're watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, and I'm sure you will learn a lot from those answers by that urologist on erectile dysfunction. And as men, we'll take necessary actions. We continue with the program this morning, and of course we now switch to another issue that has to do with health, and of course one that is really kind of much important. Aja Asuma Tonka, or Tunka, bigger body, 28-year-old, finally a student pursuing a degree in Peace and Development Studies at Jala University, Tooma Bo Campus, is reaching out with an urgent appeal for help saving her life. She was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney renal failure, a life-threatening condition that has completely changed her life. For the past 9 months, she has been undergoing regular dialysis at Streathams Hospital in Freetown. Although dialysis keeps her alive, it is painful, physically exhausting, and only a temporary treatment. Fortunately, she has found a kidney donor, giving her hope for a second chance. In the studio, we've been joined by Aja Asuma Tonka and Dr. Sako Alex Kabia, a kidney specialist and consultant physician and neurologist, to talk to us on the issue. Good morning, Aja.
Good morning.
Okay. And of course, Dr. Sako, good morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Alright, of course, for obvious reasons, we start with you, Aja. Of course, first of all, we sympathize with you on your medical condition, and we also appreciate that you've consented to speak to the public in this particular medical condition you are undergoing presently. We want you to give us a background. How did you come in contact with this dreadful medical condition? You can proceed, it's your choice to say.
Well,
If you want, you're talking clearly.
then I just want to student of Jala University campus. Well, I get the sickness through feedback. I will walk around while I get feedback, I get food on. So all of a sudden, they go to take me, they go to me in the hospital. Whatever was hospital, everybody test for me. After I test, then they go for say I go on dialysis. But I get for access to the beginning of this dialysis because of something I come across. I don't even know about it. Say I get even a kidney disease. Yes. All of a sudden, I get kidney disease. So later on, I didn't take the treatment, so the doctors decided to have dialysis on at this section a week. But because of financial, the people do not get, and they don't really stress the family a lot. But not get a lot of money, so time can I didn't go on 2 times per week. Due to the health, I didn't go on 1 time per week, 1 time per week because of the money and because of the financial. So this thing happened. And friends that don't see it, well, it's only for young graduate, it's 2026. We don't left it.
I don't say aside from your academics, this particular life-threatening situation will take a lot of toll, not only in your academics, even your life, they on the line currently. And what's going to be some of the, what you don't suffer from before this particular period really in this situation?
The only situation I don't suffer from like the money business because of especially the dialysis. I'm not getting proper help, I'm not getting proper help for going to the dialysis. And this dialysis is mainly sustaining my life for the moment. After the dialysis, now the transplants. Only the dialysis is mainly sustaining for the moment. So people like the not try that. Everyone completely not try that, but for now, I really need support and help.
So is it feeling talent for you? How you don't feel it?
Well, sometimes you feel weak, maybe torn, maybe a little more.
But you can understand. Yes, for obvious reasons, she is going to some traumatic situation. Of course, we will continue to later. But now over to Dr. Sako. Of course, as a kidney specialist and consultant, you have also been charged in the advocacy for Aja. And so far so good. How far has it gone? Now that we have a donor for the transplanting.
Yeah, as she stated, this is a young lady, unfortunately, afflicted with this condition. Stage 5 kidney disease, which implies she needs, her kidneys are not working. And so she needs renal replacement therapy, which is, she needs dialysis or kidney transplant. She's on dialysis. The standard requirement is 3 times a week. She cannot afford that, so she does once a week. Her situation came to my attention. Her brothers went to the same school as me, and so the situation was highlighted. So now, what does it mean that she has kidney failure?
Yes.
It means the kidney is responsible for maintaining homeostasis, what we call. That's the internal environment in the body that enables body functions to take place. Without that, everything is disrupted, and she will suffer from anemia, high blood pressure, electrolyte imbalances, and which affect the whole body, from the brain to the heart, to the intestinal organs. So she's then labeled as being sick, suffering from end-stage kidney disease. Transplantation is the option to dialysis. In this situation, she's on dialysis, needs it 3 times a week, but she cannot afford to do so. So she's doing only once a week. And that makes her, of course, sick and not able to do her what is required of her as a student and to live a normal life. So that's why we've looked at this option of appealing to various agencies and people, anyone, to see how we can support her to get a kidney transplant, where she gets a donor who will donate 1 kidney. Every human being has 2, and that 1 kidney will enable her to live a normal life, but should be required to take immunosuppressive agents that would allow her body not to reject that kidney. This operation is an operation. It's done in other countries, more developed countries, India, Turkey, some African countries, Europe. We don't do it in Sierra Leone. So we need support for her to embark on this journey. One of the biggest obstacles is the donor. Well, fortunately we have one. And of course we are appealing to everyone to provide the support, government, individuals, agencies, or whoever. So that's why we're here.
All right. So of course, Dr. Sako, you agree with me that Aja's condition or medical condition cannot really be overemphasized because there's a lot at stake here. I mean, as of now, we are even speaking of this particular life-threatening disease. If actions are not taken, might lead to something that we might not be here to talk about. But the good news, like you said, is at least she has a chance of making it again in life and continue to join her colleagues back in school. But again, so what's the kind of financial support at what cost are we talking about here?
Yeah. The first thing, with no offense, is a SOCO, not SACO. Okay. That's a common mistake. Okay. Now, different institutions in different countries have their costs, but the range is between $15,000 to $20,000 for the two, the donor and herself, and maybe a supporting person who will be there, and that will entail the investigations once they're there to ensure that she can withstand the procedure, and also that the donor will suffer no ill consequences as a result, and accommodation and feeding and everything. So it's a routine thing. It's done. She's not the first person to need that treatment or support. So I think it is, if she goes, she gets a transplant, comes back, she needs to be on medication to, sustain and prevent rejection of this kidney. Donor, luckily, that's the first obstacle usually. Yeah. Before she goes, we do pre-transplant evaluation to ensure that her body is strong enough to withstand the procedure. And we also do the donor to ensure that she's fit enough to provide, undergo this procedure.
Oh, Dr. Soko Alex Kabia, we'll definitely come back to you to do an awareness raising around what really causes kidney failure and that will lead to medical condition that others currently and other very important or useful information that viewers out there might need to know. The program is Good Morning Sierra Leone. We now move to a very short commercial break and we will come back with that.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm fruit. All I need is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. My soup is done, and its preparation, it is not difficult at all. Nkulenu palm soup base, it's easily done with no difficulties. Just take few ladles and your soup is done. And its flavor, it's amazing. This is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. And this is Nkulenu's Ghana's original spiced palm soup base. Iron fruit and turkey berries are naturally added.
Also available brown gold natural cocoa powder, sunny gold brown sugar, neat fufu flour, shito, pisa, and moringa. All available at Nyami Ado Enterprise, 1 Lower Waterloo Street, Freetown.
Nkulenu palm soup base.
Ghanaian original taste.
Welcome back. The program you're watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, and of course we still have in the studio Aja Sumana Tunkara and Dr. Soko Alex Kabia. Talking to us here on calling for financial support for America Commission to look into. But we will move to another issue. We're going to come back to the program. The Gen Z movement Sierra Leone is a youth-leading initiative committed to redefining the image of Sierra Leone's young people by promoting leadership, innovation, collaboration, and active civic participation. Led by Abdullahi Bari, the movement seeks to transform negative perceptions associated with Gen Zs into a force for positive national development. The movement's mission is to harness the digital skills, creativity, and influence of young people, support national development initiatives, shape public policies, and amplify the voices of a generation determined to make meaningful contribution to society. Rather than adopting confrontational approaches, the movement advocates for constructive dialogue, media engagement, and peaceful advocacy to address long-standing national challenges. As part of its flagship Gen Z Impact project, the movement has outlined several ambitious initiatives, including the construction of 90 classrooms across 15 districts in Sierra Leone, organizing a national Gen Z conference to foster dialogue between young people and national leaders, implementing capacity building programs for youth, among many other things. Well, in the studio, we've been joined another person, but the leader himself of the Gen Z movement, Abdullahi Bari. Good morning, Mr. Bari. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
So, if I take us head on, where did the initiative of bringing a generation that we currently refer to as the Gen Z, come from? Because we now have a situation where a lot of older folks you find the Gen Zs as the internet generation. They are bent on just carrying themselves online, doing fanciful things, not necessarily being focused in terms of national issues. But you have decided to change the narrative. Why so this?
I think the reason is because we are misunderstood, we are mischaracterized and misrepresented. Some things that do not deserve to be amplified are eventually amplified by different generations. Like you said, normally we are the internet generation. I think that is our strength. As people see it as our weakness, we as a movement are now showing the world that which you think is our weakness can eventually be our strength. So you said we are careless, we are not resourceful, we are rude, we are media present. Well, they wouldn't say that we are media smart because they don't say that is like just defining us the way they don't want to define us. So I think our generation is now ready to take action and then to transform that narrative because we are beyond that. We are the hope. I think we have suffered enough of ethno-regional divide in this country for years before I was born, and it is not nice that we as a generation also continue in that directive. So we want to differ, to focus on impact-based leadership, to focus on pro-national initiatives. I think you can say Sierra Leone is easy to divide and twice difficult to unite. It's so easy to divide us, but then to bring us together as one people, as one country, it becomes the bigger obstacle. So our media presence can be a resource that we can use to transform this country, and we are focused on that. We want to be partners in development to the government and every other person. So far, that's what.
So, Mr. Abai, just before coming to your Gen Z Impact project, of course, now that you've taken this particular stride to really change the dynamics insofar as the young generation is concerned, like you yourself know, like a youngster like myself, it's really difficult to bring young people together, to really have them focus on a particular stuff. It has been distracted. But now, insofar as the society is concerned, say itself, you see young people really taking the fall in bringing society together?
I believe so. I believe my generation is taking the lead. I am actually taking the lead, and the atmosphere is becoming a much more friendly atmosphere now for us. The good thing is many of the Gen Zs are tired of being mischaracterized, of being misrepresented by the older folks, or even the younger ones. Amongst ourselves, sometimes now we first go say, "Oh man, Gen Z are fed up." It happens sometimes. But then the good thing is a larger part of our generation is now willing to accept change. They realize that if it doesn't get any better, it's all of us that will feel the brunt of it. I mean, in the West, people who you see are media present and media smart. Let's take Aishu Speed for example. What do you think he does? He's always on the internet making money out of it, right? So that which we see as our weakness can eventually be our strength. You have a lot of media influencers abroad. Their presence on the media is what gives them money. So you don't have to look down on this as well. It happens in Sierra Leone. Take for example Peter Komba. He's part of our generation. He's a Gen Z, whether they like it or not. And it is the same media presence that took him to where he is now today. Take the Gen Z reporter. I could go on listing a lot more people who are Gen Zs that are doing remarkably well in society today.
Alright, so now take us through, the Gen Z Impact project by the Gen Z movement. We saw a lot of impacts. Imagine building 90 classrooms across 15 districts. That was massive. How did you come about, sourcing funds to embark on that capital intensive project?
Well, so like I said, the media is our strength. When we say 90, it looks insurmountable, but then our vision is filled by that insurmountable status of what we want to achieve. Okay. Do we have the money? No. Do we have the desire? Yes. Are we willing to stop? No. Are we continuing till we get it done? Yes. That is what is keeping us moving, because we are bold. So we looked at what President Bio wants to do with this country. Okay. Improve education, right? And our focus now is going to the primary school, because they are the ones who look left aside. So we are going to help the government. I mean, there was a fun fair with schools recently. Prince of Wales School, for the centenary celebration, the alumni raised millions of dollars, right? Same for many other schools. But how many people are actually, I am saying, Prince of Wales does not need that much amount into its infrastructure and development as compared to many schools I've seen in the interior of Sierra Leone. Schools in mud houses. I think this is 2026. Then as Gen Z I can be, I don't think anyone deserves to learn in such an atmosphere. Everybody, I think learning, the quality that President Bill promises, it starts with the environment. If the environment is too beautiful, then we are going to definitely get it too beautiful. I mean, if you look at Limbema too, there's a school called New Harvest Primary School in Tikonko in Bo. So there's this teacher, Rosalie, she constantly posts on TikTok and people laugh about it. Auntie Otenema said, I think the Sierra Leoneans should think, do these kids with their level of desire to learn, does this teacher with her passion for teaching deserve to teach, or those children deserve to learn in such an atmosphere, instead of making, oh, this bikini funny. It's not about how funny they are. Do something. and then get them a proper classroom. So we're starting with 6 classrooms. We're starting with 6 classrooms in that particular. We're starting with 6 classrooms in that particular school and a staff room. This is to ensure that we support the initiative of the government itself to improve the quality education that they are promising. Then another thing that we're focused on is transforming the mindset of Sierra Leoneans. We lack true nationalists. That is the problem. And I'm always grateful of all the things that President Koma did for this country. One of the things I admire most about him is his staunch honesty to this country. You know, after the agenda for prosperity, he looked at Sierra Leone and was blunt, honest. He said, we need agenda for change. And in that, he emphasized the key elements of that is attitudinal and behavioral change. Whether it cuts across generations, whether the older ones and the younger ones, the level of nonchalance in Sierra Leoneans recently, I know to be business, I think these are the things that are affecting this country as a whole. So we believe that as a movement, we can raise a generation of pro-nationalists that will look at the situation and say, even if this not affects me, I think if I do it, it affects the next man. Now I live uphill, if I throw away plastic in a gutter, I mean it's affecting another person down Kobe, another person at Susan's Bay. So if we raise a generation of nationalists, they will think otherwise.
All right. So with that being said, of course, I also want to ask the youngster myself, I want to need on your indulgence to see our best. I mean, of course, for obvious reasons, we do admire your submissions this morning. And we also have the pleasure and the honor to have you, share with us some of these, remarkable work you are doing in communities across the country. But if a listener, one might be listening to us now, wanting to be part of this movement, is there a way that people can be?
You don't have to pay anything. You just have to be willing to work with the movement. I think, in fact, today, after we realized that people are too, Sierra Leonean wants to get something for something. So we're even rolling out our t-shirt sales today as a fundraising. It's called the Buy One Polo Help Build a School campaign. This is when we resell these t-shirts, we are buying cement with it because we want to continue the impact that we've started and we are not stopping until we get there. So you just need to go to our Facebook page and then you can see the link there to join our WhatsApp chat room where we discuss as a Gen Z. So you don't have to pay anything, you just have to be willing.
Well, to stay with us in the program is Abdullah Barry, leader of the Gen Z movement. We will definitely come back to him to tell us so far as well as support being for them over the years from the government perspective or even all the other organizations. But like I told you, we still have in the studio Dr. Soko Alex Kabia and of course Aja Asuma Tokara calling on other women in Sierra, including the Gen Z movement, to see how best they can support and help save the life of our beautiful sister. Now, Dr. Soko, I beg your pardon, before we went for the break, you were just quantifying the financial cost for this particular very costly life-saving treatment for our sister. You might go over that.
Yes, the cost involves transportation to the foreign country,
Yes.
India for one, and there it is around $20,000, which will include various steps should be required to do for herself and the donor to ensure that she can withstand the procedure and that she's fit to undergo the transplant. And so they do pre-surgery tests that will evaluate the function of the heart and a general status. And after that, she'll undergo the procedure. And there's convalescence afterwards, where the kidney function, the new kidney, will be monitored, and then she'll undergo immunosuppressive treatment to ensure that her body does not reject the new transplant kidney. The donor will also undergo evaluation and post-transplant convalescence. And after that, they'll come home. She will be required to take immunosuppressive medication for the rest of her life. But she'll have a normal life. She can do, at that point, she can do whatever she wants. She will not be restricted. She'll have no dietary restrictions. And she will, live a normal life, be productive, a productive citizen, marry, have children without any further, consideration.
All right, at this point I will just say God bless that wonderful Sierra Union for coming forward to really, help give our sister a chance for survival. But look, quickly before moving over to Aja to make an appeal to Sierra Unions, you mind taking us to give us, let's use this period to make an awareness around kidney failures. This is becoming like a new norm.
Yeah, it is, a serious health problem because there are so many causes of it. People are born with it. Little babies have kidney failure, and some people can have conditions that they're born with that will progress to kidney failure and even to the point where they need dialysis. Other causes, systemic illnesses like diabetes, hypertension, and systemic lupus erythematosus, and a variety of other illnesses. Certain medications, drugs. In particular, I should mention some pain medications like ibuprofen, naproxen, diclofenac, and herbal medications, certain illnesses like even malaria and toxins that people are exposed to, either in diet or occupational circumstances.
So Dr. Sako, part of your submissions are already understanding some of the do's and don'ts really that you should do to protect your kidneys. But let us also need on your expertise here to tell us what are some ways you can protect our kidneys?
Well, the most important thing is to be aware of your body. Anyone could be afflicted with kidney failure. You don't think about it because, at the beginning, when it comes to the kidneys, you don't feel much until it is at a very critical stage. Except, of course, you do regular checkups where your doctor might pick it up early, or you say you have high blood pressure or you have diabetes and they see they know you're at risk and they look at it. Or you go for routine checkup and they do tests and it shows. Or you go for employment physical and it shows as well. So important thing is to have your register and to exercise, avoid smoking, not to take too much salt, and avoid certain drugs. People take drugs, and ensure that you check your blood pressure. These are simple things that can be done. Blood pressure, diabetes, physical. And once they pick up that you have, then you have to be on the medications that will control the risk factors. So it doesn't progress to that point. Or they discover that you have one that cannot be treated, medically, but under control. And then you have the awareness and you do your best to slow down the progression.
Thank you very much, Dr. Soko Alex Kabia, for your medical expertise this morning. That is a conversation we definitely follow up here at the SLBC. But from time to time, we'll be calling upon you to really help us see for our listening public. Dr. Kabia is a kidney specialist and a medical physician, and of course, a consultant physician and neurologist talking to us there. Now, Aja, quickly over to you. We want for you this 1 minute for conclude this interview with you. Then you look into that camera and then talk to Sierra Unions. Make appeal to them so that the Syrians are loving people, just as we have this donor who is coming forward to give his or her kidney to help give you a chance again in life. Make appeal to them to come to your rescue in terms of financial support.
Good morning, Syrians. Once again, my name is Haja Smotoka. I am appealing to all Sierra Leoneans, my family, friends, everyone around the world to save my life, because I am that young girl that wants to live a life. I have a dream to achieve, and my life is something that I know will going to be very important to you or to myself as well. So I am begging each and every one of you, please help save my life. I'm dying, like I'm dying seriously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aja, and once again we do sympathize with you, and we hope for the very best, and we pray that the most needed treatments will be given to you so far as your life is concerned. Now over to you, Mr. Bayi. Quickly a parting shot. What are you going to be leaving with our esteemed viewers in so far as the movement is concerned?
I think we are hopeful.
Okay.
We have received a lot of calls, and there is hope, there's positive impact. But then I think if I want to say anything beyond that, I must also emphasize that as Sierra Leoneans, we can please join hands with the former minister, Dr. Soko, to please save the life of this young lady.
Okay.
I think she's equally Gen Z. I've made to understand that she's 28 years old. And beyond that, she's a Sierra Leonean who is concerned about her life. And we must be able to prioritize certain things as Sierra Leoneans. This is a nationalist agenda, and saving the life of this young girl will mean impacting a lot more. You don't know what she could do to other children tomorrow. So
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm impressed myself. I'm coming from the leader of the Gen Z movement. Now, quickly, Dr. Soko, you want to announce the contact for people who might want to go ahead?
Yes. Firstly, let me express my gratitude to you for hosting us, and thank you so much for your support. Yes, there's an account that with Guarantee Trust Bank. The account number is 203-330-6022-1590. It's a Leone account.
Please go by that. Please go by that. Please go by that.
Okay, 203-4/330-6022/1590, and the BBAN number is 00520-300047324461. Telephone number, my number is 076-627795, and what's your number?
074-444-0.
Alright, thank you very much for that note. We move quickly to another segment in the program. We view the front pages of our local tablet. For that, I begin with the payment newspaper. A few headlines here. ECOWAS ministers open 96th session. Honorable Momo Bokri slams energy ministers over absence. 20 years, no benefits. Former staff battles Gambia embassy. Those other issues you can find on the payment newspaper. My next pick is political. Heads of states arrive for ECOWAS summit. And to go with that story is a portrait of President Julius Maada. ECOWAS ILO solicits decent work from domestic workers. Father jailed in child marriage case. Regional ministers push for stronger solidarity. Our stories you can find on the front page of the newspaper. My next and penultimate pick is Standard Times newspaper talking to the banner headline. ECOWAS Commission President Bio beats farewell as Council opens the 6th ordinary session. Former President Kuruma thanks Bio, ECOWAS and Nigeria. DH sand mining at Jembema Bridge. Trouble looms over Bauma. And my final pick is Independent Observer newspaper to the banner headline. The politics behind the discontinuance. Legal windfall for Sierra Leoneans in USA as US judge orders USCIS to rescue work permits processing. Icona, London, and AIV. Okay, our stories you can find on the front page of Independent Observer newspaper. But on that note, we bring the program to a close. Many thanks to you, our esteemed viewers, for being part of the program this morning. It has been educative, it has been informative, and very much interesting here this morning. Many thanks to our studio guests, and thanks to the production crew. This program was produced by Daphne Zenap. Until Monday when the program returns, I'm Dennis Fraser. Keep watching the SLBC.